Hey there, everybody. Thank you for tuning back into Number One Leading Ladies, a podcast by women for women. We focus on building each other up instead of tearing each other down. Today, we have with us a commercial broker who's also a female, because of course we only have females on the show, Brooke Jackson. And I'm not going to introduce her for her because I won't do her justice. So Brooke, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, thank you very much for having me today. I am a true believer in uplifting women and supporting women, not only through my industry, which is commercial real estate, but any other female-owned businesses. So I really do appreciate having me today. So I am a vice president with Newmark Knight Frank. I've been with their multifamily capital markets group for about a year now. I've been in the multifamily lending space specifically for about a decade, and a little bit longer than that, just in commercial real estate finance. In particular, since I've been at Newmark, I've changed positions a little bit, just from solely lending in multifamily through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, but now I also do brokerage, as you said. So help to place debt on all different asset classes with, again, a focus in multifamily, but definitely open to helping whoever's looking.
Yeah, a lot of the times, when you have your own business and you're trying to, deal with a book of business, or it sounds like you've got a couple, but there's always like a period of time where you have to ramp up and kind of create, like, how am I going to market myself? How am I going to make myself different? How am I going to do this? Now, with Newmark Knight Frank, you have a little bit of support, but you still have the same challenges where when you're getting started, you're trying to figure out, okay, what are my biggest challenges and how do I overcome those? You kind of have to be creative on your own. It's not like anyone's going to just tell you what to do. What have been some of the biggest challenges, I guess, in lending and in brokerage and whatever you've been involved with, and then had to figure out a way to overcome those and come out on the other end?
Yeah, well, I have actually had a couple very unique challenges compared to most of the other brokers I know, because in my career I've had 2 children. So I feel that not only have I had to start over basically after each kid, you start over when you have a new job. So I feel like in the past 3 years, I've started over 3 times. And I feel like one of the biggest challenges, which we don't really talk about, and I don't want to get into, maternity leave or anything like that, but I feel like one of the biggest challenges we have as women, especially in a commission-based environment, is trying to get back in after being gone for an amount of time, any amount of time that you decided to take, and staying in while you're gone as well. I was lucky enough that through my first maternity leave, my company's policies were a little bit relaxed. So I was able to take the time, but still stay in the game and work on some deals and keep deal flow going. And with my second little one, the policy changed dramatically and I was locked out of all the systems. I wasn't able to do anything. And that's a really harsh environment to be in as a woman in this industry. It's a big challenge that I just don't think we talk enough about what happens to your deal flow and your customers and everything when you're not there, and then trying to pick back up when you get back. Luckily, I'm at a company now where I feel like it would be a different story, but you never know. And I don't think I'm going to have any more babies. So I feel that the biggest challenge for me now is that, I had 2 babies very close together, 19 months apart. And so it really is rebuilding a book of business, not only at a new company. And I've never been fortunate where I've gone into a job where they've given me a book. I've never had a portfolio. I've never had an existing clientele. It's really bringing over anybody who I've been able to keep if I didn't have a non-compete, and just building that back up. So again, starting over from scratch. And again, Newmark offers a fantastic brand, a fantastic platform to build upon. So I'm very fortunate that they've given me such a great opportunity here in Chicago. But it really is getting back into the market and explaining that, yeah, I'm at a new company and maybe you didn't see me the past couple of years because I was busy having a family, but I'm still here. I'm still back. And really trying to just pick up after you've been in the industry for 10 years, you feel like you shouldn't have to do that again. But you do. It's a very crazy environment where you have to rebuild your book after building your book for 10 years. So I think that's a unique a situation that women are faced with that we don't really talk about. We talk about maternity leave, how much time do you get off, but you don't talk about what happens when you come back or what happened to your job while you were gone. So I'm happy to say I've been with Newmark now for a year at the end of the month, and things are going very well. Been able to pick up a lot of business contacts from prior companies and through Crew and meet other women who really focus on supporting women in the industry, which is a goal that I like to align with when I recognize other players who are doing the same.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. I mean, I'm glad.
That was a big long tangent.
No, I'm glad that you went there, because I've had women talk about, obviously how we are wired differently than guys, and not just that, but you're in Crew, I'm in Crew, commercial real estate women, and it's been super awesome for us to be able to support each other, just like a group of guys that go together to go get cigars together, whatever. Like a lot of those groups, when it comes to the financial industry, when it comes to commercial real estate, we're kind of left out of that kind of stuff, so it's really key. Well, Crew, I don't remember if it's next week. I think it is. Did you see the post where they talked about the book Women Don't Ask by Barbara Babcock, and I forget her co-author on that book. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw the post. I haven't been able to delve into it.
I'm reading the book. I've got like an hour left in the book, and a little bit repetitive, but it's amazing, kind of just the way that it explains, going throughout history and then even present, just the way that words are used and the way that people associate like a woman in business, or how we're not allowed to be as assertive because it's just not accepted. The way that we negotiate, they'll call us certain names for, negotiating just as well as a man. And anyway, like this funny thing, because I feel like and saying I'm more masculine than other women is not correct. I would just say that I'm more direct, and I'm more data-based, and so it's not like I'm rude. I'm definitely a person, but when I'm in that brain space of talking about business or work or whatever, I'm definitely in that space. I'm not good at balancing the two. So I hang out with guys all the time. And there's these two guys that I was hanging out with Sunday night. And we were talking about making some carports for one of my properties. And then the other one does military contracting and kind of the projects they're working on. And it was funny because they kept trying to not talk about some of the details about what they were doing. And so I called them out for it. I was like, yeah, I get it. I'm the token at this table. There's two guys and one girl. And what normally happens is women underperform in these kinds of situations because of what you're doing right now. You're not cluing me into the normal conversations that you would be having if I wasn't here, and that is limiting my ability to learn, my ability to create a bond with you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really interesting to understand. So that book's been really cool to read. And one thing I've experienced a lot in real estate, and the book explains it, not in residential, because I have a residential brokerage. Women are total badasses in residential because they're negotiating on someone else's behalf, not on their own behalf. When we get into negotiate for yourself. So totally different deal, and we just do different things, but it's also part of because of the way that culture is and still is. So anyway, I think making women better negotiators, which cue into all these skills, is something I kind of next want to focus on. So I'm definitely going to be going to that. I think it's online, but the thing where she like goes over the book and a discussion about it and whatnot. And I actually would like to see if I can interview Barbara on my podcast, because of all the things that you said, it's I could spend 2 hours going into all the things the book's talking about, but what happened to you makes me mad, honestly, that even was a thing. But, like someone that would say, okay, you can't see your data, you can't log in and do business. I mean, you're literally making money for the company. They're not doing anything. You know what I mean? You're the one that is causing, like companies wouldn't succeed without sales reps. Without the sales that come in, they don't they don't grow. So that's like ludicrous to me. And then how alienating is that, for them to treat you that way because you're creating the next generation of men. You know what I mean? Like, they can't do that. So anyway, that just kind of makes me mad. But wow, and you overcame that, and obviously find people that treat you the right way, is key. So I'm glad that you found a solution.
Yeah. And, I think one of the biggest things that we talk about, but we don't sometimes really elaborate on the fact is that there's a difference between having a mentor and a sponsor. And my mentors in the industry are normally women, more senior than I am, sometimes not, who really have a unique take on what they've done, what they've accomplished. And I can bounce ideas off of them. I can bounce jobs off of them. I can bounce, how are you working with this and kids or this and that? And really talking to them about kind of just struggles and how to overcome them, or just advice. But the thing that we don't talk about is sponsors, which are completely different. And, ironically enough, in my instance, in my career, I have a couple of really good sponsors who are men. Because you need sponsors in your corner who you can go to as an advocate for what you've done and what you can do or are capable of. And I've been very fortunate to work with at my prior company a few gentlemen who were very instrumental in teaching me the business and how to go about what I'm doing now and really learning it. And it's great to have those type of sponsors in your corner. I think it's a little, unique though, because I've only had one female manager my entire career. So it would be nice to have, a female sponsor in my corner, but it's also nice to know that we are still able to build those relationships with people in the industry, with men in the industry, which is important because, they're never going away. Yeah. But I definitely think that you have to be prepared for any situation you're put in. And as much as I like to seek out and help and influence through Crew and through other women organizations, you have to also be prepared to step in full force to any male-dominated organization as well, and really show your expertise and show what you can bring to the table. Because and I think I can't remember, but I think at one of the Crew conventions, another lady talked about how one of her old managers was her biggest sponsor and biggest reason why she had a seat at the table. So I think it's a very fine line that we have to walk and be able to understand in our environment. And it is because we have to negotiate and we have to sell and we have to talk and we have to be 100% on so many different levels that it really takes us being at the top of our game all the time to make a difference.
Oh, you're so right. I wrote an article, I think a week ago, it's not published yet, but about, communication barriers. Because you're right, you do. Like, I find that when we're working day to day and stuff, if you can work with women, what the studies show from Carnegie Mellon is that women will then outperform their male counterparts who are supporting each other. Like I mentioned, the token girl thing or token woman thing, then they hide information, don't help as much. And again, but it's all different. So exactly, I've had men in my life that exactly, they understand kind of what I need to move forward as a person. It doesn't matter what my gender, and they have been some of my biggest advocates because it also will help you when it comes to referrals or when it comes to like writing a letter for you, things like that. Because for example, if we're in a male-dominated industry like finance, real estate, or commercial real estate, there's going to be more men. It's mostly men. So it does help for, I hate to say this, but what I call a real man, someone that is like you're a person, and I help someone with merits, not they're based on their gender, or how much we hang out, like how much merit does this person have, but it's going to take for those men that are leaders in our industry to help push us forward and push us up to be able to kind of bridge that gap, I think. And then also when it comes to women in our communication, you're right, we do need to be even more on top of our game. It's crazy because, again, this book that I'm talking about, the Women Don't Ask, it's exactly what it's about, is that, men have no problems because of a lot of psychological reasons, but they don't have any problems just asking for what they want, asking for more, not caring how that makes someone else feel, not trying to take care of everybody else's feelings, but just being like, this is what I deserve, this is what I want. And so it's interesting that we, even as women, we have to kind of tailor our conversation and kind of how we do things. We could, I also wrote a negotiating book recently. We can totally control every situation because we have this intuitive ability to pick up on the emotions that underlie the outward expressions and like actions and what they're actually doing. So we're even better at it, but we just have to do more listening than 95% of the room, make everybody else feel validated and heard, and basically let them disclose all the information. But usually women will we overshare, and we also will say self-deprecating information or things that like someone gives you a compliment or says that I do it, like you're an awesome fundraiser. I'm like, I could do so much better. But I mean, that is the truth. That I'm not like actually saying I'm bad or something, but I'm like, man, I could totally 10x this thing, but I just don't have the systems in place. That's what I'm working on now. But anyway, so those are the three things that women use that actually reduce our power. So it takes it away when we have to hear, I'm sorry, and then you have to wait for someone to forgive you. Why are you saying sorry?
I cannot tell you how many times I've had to reread an email and take away an I'm sorry, or take away a just wanted to know, or a please, or it's I think because of and not just to go down to the basics, but like it's just our maternal instinct is a little bit more gentle, I'd say. And I mean, I'm not generalizing at all. I'm just saying that it's sometimes there, especially when you're doing something, you kind of like ask for like, oh please let me know, or please this, or just this. And I'm just like, no, just get to the point. Just ask the question, say please once, say let me know once, like just take out a lot of the fluff to really get the point across. Because I feel like just sometimes adding those extras just softens our message. And
but it reduces the effectiveness of your message. For me, I'm a data person, so when someone sends me word vomit that's this long, I literally read the first line, and I'm like, oh my God, what's the punchline? And I read the bottom. And if there's no question mark or an action asking me to do something, I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? And I move on. So, I could see whether it's a woman to a woman or a woman to a man, or it doesn't matter, that extra fluff doesn't really help get your message across. And also, so the reason why that women do that, like you're saying, softening, is we have a larger need to be collaborative, and it's based on I can't remember the name of the word, but it's like someone that thinks inward versus someone that thinks outward. And women think outward, where we need to have collaboration, and men think inwards, they don't care, they just do their thing. So we always want to make sure that everybody that's involved, knows what's going on, that we're all making decisions together, that whatever. So that adds that extra stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very unique. I do think that we are expanding our reach on people, or women feeling more comfortable to reach out about problems. Because over the past year, I've had, 2 younger women in the industry actually reach out and talk to me and look for advice on how to ask for pay raises, and how to ask for either more responsibility in their job or more pay for less for the responsibility that they've taken on. So I definitely think that recently the conversation is getting more open. People aren't afraid to ask for help in these conversations, because maybe it's not inherent to us to just walk in there and be like, I need this pay raise because I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and you hired me for ABC, and now I'm doing ABC, X, Y, and Z, so now I need to get paid for that. We just kind of take on the extra work and not say anything about it. And I really think that now we're getting to a point where women aren't afraid to ask for help from other women in the industry. Whereas, and we've all seen it where, if people are afraid to ask, or they don't know if they're going to get the right response if they do ask the question.
Yeah, you're right, because they're worried about the other person. Don't worry about it. You know, they're either going to say yes or no. If they say no, then that's the point where you get to start negotiating. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, those books are key. And then I think that's so cool that we have this crew network, because it's bridging that gap between women being afraid to ask because women don't ask. That's our issue. And then they can ask someone that at least is going through the same thing, so they understand how to. Here's a great way to negotiate this. Or, for example, a great way to do that would be reaching out to someone who knows not just how to negotiate it, but maybe what kind of salary level would this equal because you're already doing it, or something like that. And so then you can get data and facts. And when you're showing a manager or someone, hey, this is what the industry is calling for right now, you know, $10 million or whatever, and I'm getting paid $2 million, you know. So setting that framing up and then figuring out, you know, how everybody can win. So anyway, you're right. Bridging that gap, I think
Crew has been a phenomenal advocate in that space. You know, just with publishing their white papers, with you know, who's making what in what industry, and really trying to show, because the conversation about pay is so restrictive. Nobody wants to say how much they make, and nobody wants to share that information unless you really have that trust, that bond, that close-knit relationship where no one's going to talk about it. And I mean, it's a very harsh stigma against it. So I think Crew's done a fantastic job with their white papers, really trying to get that information and publish those surveys so people can see, you know, just have a little bit more understanding of who's getting paid for what, because you don't know you're underpaid until you know you're underpaid. And then once you find out you're underpaid, you're like, whoa. And you want to change the conversation to figure out if you know, if you can get paid your market value at the company you're working at. And I think that's something that, you know, I've never been in a boys' locker room, so I'm not sure what they talk about. I don't know if it's more open behind their scenes and if they're talking about it, but I know that women still are not. So, I mean, maybe that's a good question. Maybe that's a good question to ask. Can we find out?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what's interesting is because it's deemed worldwide or globally effeminate for us to be in conflict, for us to be someone that's like a bulldog, or someone that's arguing, or somebody that's confrontational. So, you know, men don't like women who aren't soft. You know what I mean? So I've had a hard time in my life. I can be soft, but not when it comes to freaking negotiating or, like, you know, having lunch. I'm not at the hospital, you know, my grandma, it's different situations for me. So, you know, so we pull back because we're like, oh my God, they're not going to approve of me and I'm going to be judged, which therefore means I'm not relational, which therefore means maybe I'll even lose my job if, you know, I'm not liked in my workspace. So it's sad that that's even kind of how we have to feel, but it's not anything that we're doing. It's just how the world perceives women. So I'm glad that we can have some conflict amongst, you know, each other, and then figure that out before we kind of go out into the waters and test it in the real world. But yeah, I mean, this book's been great. Negotiating, Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference has been awesome. I don't know if you've read that, but I mean, I'm now practicing it with my friends. Like, legitimately, I made a slideshow or slide deck on it. I presented it to a group on Saturday last week. And in really tough negotiations, I'm now, like, not afraid of them. Now what I want is to actually, if we can, be in person, because this stuff works so well. It's so good. But it just takes it to where you're confident. So, for example, people are stressing you out and they have a high-pitched voice and they're blaming and da-da-da-da. There's certain words that you can use, like, how am I supposed to do that? How? And you like that, or labeling, like, for example, if somebody comes into the room and they're calling you names or whatever. Again, women are very good at picking up on the base emotion. So like if a man was really an old grumpy grandpa, you know, he's like grumpy and mad at everybody and everyone's like, what's his problem? You know, the core issue in this example is that he's sad because he's lonely, you know, and so women are usually good at picking up that core issue, but, you know, labeling that, being like, you know, you're lonely. How can I help? You know, like, immediately disarm somebody because you're getting like, or anyway, so these are great books, you know, to help, I think, negotiating. So you go into it and you calm your voice down and you control the situation and everyone feels like it's okay. You know, there's so many different ways to kind of be in control. And so hopefully that helps women. I'd like to do something in the future soon here and see how I can help women negotiate better and feel more comfortable, because everything is negotiable. Like, especially now that there's more single mothers than ever, we have to negotiate our parents' health care. We have to negotiate at school, like what car rides our kids take. We have to negotiate our salaries. We have to negotiate everything. You know what I mean? So now, like I said, there's more single female-led households. It's more important, I think, than ever. And we have actually gone backwards in time as far as that pay gap. So in the 60s and 70s, that era, it shortened or got not as wide, however you say that, it compressed. And then as we got into 70s and 80s, it stayed about the same. And then 80s and 90s, it actually went backwards. So 10% increase in that gap. So we're still there now, where basically we went backwards before like the 60s, you know? So, I don't know about you, and you could go into this for hours, but things like blockchain technology are things where, you know, like when you're doing a deal or there's certain financials moving or contracts or things like that, it's fully disclosed to all parties. And so you're required essentially to be more honest because all the information is just right there. There's no, we're not going to disclose the selling price. We're not going to disclose salaries. We're not going to, it's all just there to all parties involved. So that's probably 10, 20 years down the road. Let's hope 10. But I think that, the world right now calls for more honesty. And I think that's going to give women a bigger advantage to be able to have everything be more equal, I guess. Like be the great equalizer, and technology is going to help us do it. So anyway.
I think that's spot on. I think that we're headed in the right direction. We're really focused on helping each other. And as you mentioned, honesty is very important now more than ever. And people want to know what's going on behind the scenes. Before there wasn't much interest. I think that now it's really starting to perk up.
Which is good because it'll also separate like different types of people, and why would you need to go sue someone who's doing bad business if everybody just knows about it? You don't need to do that stuff anymore. So they just won't get more business. So, which is, I think, how the world should work. But a lot of people can take reviews offline. They can hide things. They can, like I said, sue someone for saying anything, not just so they can't say the truth. So hopefully that will change and then things will be a little more equal. Now, I've got one question. What would you say has been your biggest lesson?
My biggest lesson.
Yeah.
I would honestly have to say my biggest lesson is not protecting myself when it comes to business first, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I've always worked on teams, always a team player. I've also worked by myself too, so I can't say always with that. But I think the biggest thing is that we tend to sometimes overtrust. And if we have a previous relationship with someone, we just kind of lean on that when really we should just making sure that before things are set in stone, you have I's dotted and T's crossed, because you have to remember that it's always business. It's never personal. And we tend to make it personal. And the way around that is to make it business. So just, put everything in writing and put everything in a contract if need be. But I think that, when we start to make things personal and base business decisions upon trust and not make it where it's an actual business decision. I don't know if that makes sense, but like put it in writing and make a decision business related. I think that is sometimes when we can possibly get taken advantage of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It does make complete and total sense. And that's true. Like, remember how I mentioned the oversharing thing? That's actually the boundary line for me of it actually being hard for me to do business. And that's why I've had to own my own business, because there's so many times where you're subject to everybody else's opinions or their power over you or whatever. And I tend to overshare because I tend to be over honest. I grew up in a family where I couldn't tell anyone anything about what was going on my entire life. So now as an adult, it's so important to me to be able to just say what I want to freaking say, like, and not care how that's going to then negatively impact my career. It's just words. So, but it feels freeing to be able to just say something. So yeah, that does make total sense.
I definitely think that it's very hard. I have a very, very bad habit of repeating myself. I don't know if it's because I have to repeat myself to my husband like 10 times a day, but I tend to repeat myself even when I have someone's full attention.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of funny because I'll have some people that I work with and be like, no, we already went over that. Keep going. And I have to remind myself, like, you know, when I do have someone's full attention, I don't have to repeat myself. I can just say it once. They'll understand. I'll understand and go over it. But it's one thing when, you know, you just have so much on your mind and it all comes out. And
we overshare. And that's where I'm saying that business line is hard. It's actually really almost emotionally hard for me. That's why going to therapy is so important, because we want to expand the message. We want to explain the background of stuff. And I've had to stop that. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You're simply giving them facts. You're simply giving them information. That is it, you know? And so that is, for me, the difference between business and personal is, you know, hey, like it's important to have rapport with your coworkers. For example, hey, how was your kid's party this weekend? Oh my God, my in-laws showed up and they started, you know, complaining about this problem we had 10 years ago, and then they drove me crazy and I ended up drinking a bottle of wine that night. And, you know, like, that would be me. That would be me explaining the whole thing because I want to share. And unfortunately, in a work situation, that can become an oversharer person, because then people start formulating their own perceptions of then who you must be based on, you know, one situation or something like that. So actually, I agree with you that being a business just means, you know, sharing the facts. And so actually going through some lawsuits and things like that, it's actually been a good exercise, because it's just, you're saying false, not correct, hearsay. You know what I mean? I don't need to expand for an hour on whatever you're asking about or blaming me for. I just need to present the facts. So, yeah. And then when it comes to like a very close personal relationship, that's where, and someone I'm dating reminded me of this on Sunday. He's like, sometimes some of those things that are, you know, you could give someone an overview of what's going on so they can at least kind of identify with where you're at, you know, and you might be absent right now because you're going through so much, but they don't need to know all the details. That's sacred, and that's something that would be to hold on to those very close friendships. So I'm still learning how to...
It's something we learn all the time, every day, where we don't have to justify every single one of our actions. We can just, or every single one of our words, every single thing. We can just do it when it requires a justification. But yeah, it's definitely, it just shows our strength when we believe in what we're doing and believe in what we say, and we don't have to repeat ourselves or give an explanation.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. That's really a great lesson. I mean, yeah, just don't take away your power, you know? Yeah, yourself. I've got one last question real quick. What, Brooke, has been your biggest win?
My biggest win? Is this personally or professionally?
Whatever you want to answer.
Honestly, I'd have to say right now in this moment, my biggest win is being able to work from home with 2 little ones under 3, keep the household afloat, and still keep deals in the pipeline. I think that right now, like, that is just, it's huge. I can't go into my office. I mean, it's, you know, it's not out of the norm of what's going on with everyone else, but I just feel like this situation right now is so unique that the fact that I haven't just completely thrown my hands up in the air is just a huge win. There's so many outside stress factors that I never thought I'd be dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it just having to explain to my daughter that we can't go to the park because it has a cold, and, you know, not getting outside, not going to the office, not having any separation. So I'd have to say, just right now, here in this moment, the biggest win is just being able to perform at, I would have to say, like, maybe like 90% capacity, because I don't think there's any way you could really be 100 when you have toddlers running around your house on your business calls. But I really think that...
That's so funny.
Well, the only reason they haven't come in on this is because I locked the door. So
I've seen so many of those calls. It's awesome.
There is a grown-up with them. That's just a disclaimer. But no, I really think just right now, the biggest win is showing how, not only myself, but how we can adapt and overcome any situation that is thrown in our way.
Yeah.
No one thought that on March 16th that we would still be working from home right now.
Right.
So it's just, I feel like right now, just being able to adapt and overcome and continue with business and the family and everything in this current environment is the biggest one I could have ever had, because I know some people who have literally just they don't have any childcare, they don't have any help, and they're maybe running at 20% business capacity, maybe on a good day.
Right.
And I feel that I'm very fortunate where I have my mother help me, so I'm able to do more work, but it's a very trying environment right now.
Yeah, so you're building your grit even more. So that's another thing with females is that, yeah, we have kids, so we got to do double, triple what you do. You know what I mean? So it's just ludicrous to me that, like I said, the sort of the stigma or the attitude or whatever is to, you'll have to read that book. It's great. And I have it on audiobook, so when I'm running or when I'm driving, I listen to it. Or whenever you can. I know you don't have a lot of quiet moments, but if ever there's a nap happening or something, it's amazing, surveys for years that have been done about certain words that are associated with people or our actions or whatever, and even starting from little kids in school, because obviously they have parental influences, and they genderize even their toys. They think a toy box or a work toy box is only for the boys to play with, and then the girls, they can only play with the dollhouse, and the boys won't play with the dollhouse. Anyway, so, and again, that's not their own thinking, that's influence.
Oh yeah, no, it's that's a very real thing. And again, we kind of let our girls. We have two little girls, and they both have dump trucks and race cars and toolboxes, but at the same time, she'll run around in her princess dress with her princess crown while fixing the chair because it's broken with her tools. So it's you can do it all.
Oh my God.
When you're 3, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, you have to do it all sometimes. I've been single for 6 years. So yeah, I have to fix stuff. It's just reality. But that's great. And so the sad part about that is it doesn't really mean too much, I don't think, as far as until you find your skill set later, and it may cross over, who cares? So it might be a little bit up here, but the one part that hurts me reading and listening to this stuff is that that also correlates to finances and piggy banks, and the facts that young boys sometimes will be given stocks or financial instruments, or be taught about things at a very young age where I wasn't. I'll tell you, I wanted to be. My adoptive dad would trade stocks sometimes during the daytime, but he would lock his office so I couldn't come in. And this was me being 6, 7, 8, not a little toddler that screams randomly.
That presses the buttons and makes all the screens go away.
I would just want to learn something, and you just cut me off of that. And so, I've got a fund coming out soon, and then also an app that'll probably take me until the end of the year to finish. But it's focused on bridging that gap because, some of these instruments, it's not a toy, it's whatever, it's a conceptual thing or whatever, and kids need to see it in a holdable form too first, but the knowledge gap too, where it's the app, basically it's walking you through different asset classes in real estate and watching videos of pros and cons and risks and rewards, and it's real estate focused. But anyway, there's even a mindset portion of it, being able to love yourself and believe in yourself. And when you can do that, then when it comes to challenges like investing or losing deals that unless you believe and love yourself, those things you won't even try to get into them. So anyway, I want to bridge that gap financially, which will take us being able to learn more, whatever it is that we want to learn, and not being blocked from that either. So like my sponsor, if you will, that you were mentioning earlier, he freaking taught me everything I know. Without Alex, and even to this day, there's stuff that I don't know, and he's still just call me,
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know that you don't know it.
Yep. And you're wait, what?
It's crazy. And then I feel a definite responsibility to teach these girls about everything. They each have a piggy bank, and they understand money buys things, but it's something that you really have to build upon, and you have to show them, and you have to instill that. I mean, my toddler, she knows that if you go to the store and you give them a credit card, they'll give you the stuff. Like, you can buy things. I don't know if she knows what that means yet. I mean, of course, she's only 3.
Yeah.
But like, it's I feel this huge responsibility to make sure that she understands finances in a way that will give her a good footing for her future.
I'm really proud of you. I really am. I've been afraid to have children for a long time, and it's exactly wanting to be like you is being afraid of not being able to be that person. But I am young and I am still learning. So I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be great. The wonderful I've learned
thing,
lessons from other people's mistakes, for sure.
The wonderful thing is that we can always learn. We can always learn. We can always further our education. We can always further our knowledge. We can always learn new things. And being able to instill what we've learned and the practices we have on our little ones, that's what's going to keep going. Because, we've already made our mistakes, and they're going to make plenty of mistakes too. But at least we can help them not make the big ones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Brooke, I really, 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 really appreciate your time today. I had an excellent, good conversation. Felt like I was just on the phone with you, which is kind of like my goal, just so we can talk about, the real stuff. How can our audience get a hold of you if they're curious about working on a multifamily project, whether it's the financing portion or whether it's finding a deal? And is your area just in kind of around Chicago?
So I'm national.
Okay.
So Newmark is a global firm. So if anybody has questions on a global basis for real estate, we're a full service advisory firm. I can find someone if you're not in my market. But I do focus my attention nationally. So I'm not just Chicago based. And you can feel free to just, shoot me an email. Is probably the best way to, ask a question during this time, just because it's such a crazy day to plan out with the kids, like I mentioned. But if you want me to say it, my email address, yeah. So it's Brooke, Brooke .Jackson, Jackson at ngkf.com.
Glad you don't have to spell the whole thing out.
Okay. Hey, anytime. My maiden name was really, really crazy and Italian, so everybody is much happier now that Jackson is the Jackson spell.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Brooke. I really appreciate it. And if y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out to Brooke at her email address. And she's probably like me, checks it a couple times a day, so don't blow her up. So thank you guys for tuning in to Number One Leading Ladies. And I'll see y'all and hear y'all, or you'll see us and hear us next week on Number One Leading Ladies. Thank you.